And also just to let Barbie and Troy let you guys know, I am muting participants on entry. So I will let them know that if they do have a question to unmute. Is that good? Or do you want them to
Mhm.
put it in the Q&A or the chat?
Um, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
As long as like if somebody has a question, cool. Um, we just don't want it to like go off into a discussion, at this point. So yeah, so like a
We can
question
put,
here and there is
I'll
fine.
ask them to put it in the chat and then we can review it at the end. So it
Sure.
doesn't get off the script.
Yeah, and like I said, I might have trouble just like viewing the chat with everything going on
Yeah,
my screen.
I'll
So
do that. I'll do
um,
that. Yeah.
so yeah, if you want to, if somebody
Okay.
wants to monitor that and just say, "Hey, oh, we have a question," you know, um, it would just probably take me way too long to try to get to the chat and then get back.
Absolutely.
So
Totally understand it. I can definitely do that. Um,
excellent.
and when I give the trigger warning, I'll also ask that when people share their stories that they are sharing it's their story to share. That's something that
Mhm.
is just can be really difficult. I didn't know to do that in the beginning when I started the Zooming thing. And one of our meetings went off the rails and somebody was talking about somebody else's sexual assault and it was just awful. So
Mm.
lesson learned.
Yeah,
That's how we learn, right? Mistakes. 2020
yeah,
was full of
yeah.
learning.
I'll be talking about some of my own mistakes as well. Because
Okay.
we're all learning, it's a learning process, and everybody is has their own triggers and sensitivities to things. So there's no one shoe fits all. So
Absolutely. Very, very true. People are starting to trickle in and it looks like it is 6:30. Do you want to go ahead and start or should we give them a couple more minutes? We had 20 people registered.
mhm. Yeah, we can wait another minute or two.
Okay. I always hate doing that for the folks who do show up on time because I'm like, oh,
I am an educator, so I know that. But there's always people, especially with a one-time thing. I have this happen all the time with my classes, and it's the same time every week. It's the same, twice a week, same time, and there's a few people who are always late, and then you have a conversation with them, and it's like, I'm dropping my kids off at daycare. There's no way I can get here any faster. I've coming from my job. I hit traffic.
yeah.
There's always something that it's a legit thing, and
Yeah.
especially with events like this, it's like I'm usually terrified about logging in and trying to make sure I can get in and my videos working and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
I totally get it. You know, there's always things going on.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you're very understanding about that. Um, and I do think that it kind of, as we are advancing in this practice that we're doing of virtual learning, I think it is something that we're going to have to evolve and learn as we go. All
Mm,
right. Okay, people are really flooding in now. This is great.
nice. Mm.
Excellent. Excellent, Smithers. All right. Hi, Bridget. It's good to see smiling faces. I'm gonna go ahead and start. And if anybody joins late, that's okay. But I do want to just start by it looks like I know pretty much everybody on here, which is great. But if you don't know me, my name is Jenny Jo Allen. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the education and outreach coordinator for Aspen. And hello, Aspen is an acronym for Abuse Support and Prevention Education Network. So we serve survivors of sexual assault, human trafficking, and domestic violence. And we serve all of Sweetgrass Park and Marr counties in Montana. But I do want to let folks know too, if you are joining us from outside of Montana or outside of the areas that we haven't as our service areas, that's okay. You can always call us on our support line, even if you're not in our area, and we can help connect you to somebody in your area, that's fine. But there are also some really great national resources. One is called, you probably, the one that most people have probably heard of is called RAINN, RAINN.org. And they have live chats with counselors. So that's a great resource. Some of the materials that we are talking about today can be triggering and can be bring up some really big emotions. And so if that is the case, feel free. You can always reach out to Aspen. Our number is 406-222-8154, and that's a 24/7 hotline, support line. But you can also reach out to RAINN if you'd rather have that internet chat with an anonymous person, or there's also a great resource that is called Male Survivor, and another one that's called 1 in 6. And you can find these also on the Jane Doe No More website. So Jane Doe No More has begun I think it's probably been a few years since you've started the male speaker the John Doe No More, that part of Jane Doe No More.
That's actually pretty recent, that
Okay.
page. We launched that within the last few months, I'd say.
Oh my gosh, that's great. It looks great
Yeah.
for brand new. Yeah, it looks really good.
Thank you. Yeah, we spent a lot of time working on it. But yeah, we just launched it pretty recently.
That's great. I mean, I'm really impressed with that. So John Doe No More is you can launch from there, from the Jane Doe No More page. Up on the top there'll be a link to the John Doe No More page. And John Doe No More, their mission is breaking the stigma of sexual crimes against boys and men, are perpetrated against boys and men. And they also have the message that you are not alone and it is not your fault. Often the first step to healing, when talking about sexual assault, is sharing your story. And so today we have Troy Schinkel here to share with us his story and also talk to us a little bit about that stigma, and how we can break the stigma that is in a lot of our cultures, against male sexual crimes perpetrated against men and boys. And 1 in 6 boys will be a victim of sexual assault by the time they're 18 years old. So this is an important conversation and that's an important reason why we need to stop the stigma, so that men can take that first step of healing by sharing their story. So I'm going to head it over to Troy. Just a couple housekeeping things. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and he is going to allow time at the end of his sharing so that he can answer those questions. And if you need to take care of yourself throughout this, but you would like to see the rest of the recording, we will have it up on our YouTube page, and that is YouTube at Aspen MT.406 is our page. So it will be up there, and it might take like a week or so to get that up there. But yeah, so thank you so much, Troy, for doing this. And there, we also have Carol Winton and Barbie Jenkins from Jane Doe No More. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I'm gonna hopefully make it so that you can see me and you can see the presentation. So let's give this a whirl here. All right. So hopefully you can see me and the presentation. Aspen and Jenny Jo, they asked me to talk about engaging men in violence prevention. So that's going to be the main focus. We're obviously going to talk a lot about Jane Doe No More and what we do, and John Doe No More. But we're talking about engaging men in violence prevention. So as Jenny Jo said, my name is Troy Schinkel. I am a survivors of sexual crimes and educational speaker for Jane Doe No More. Jane Doe No More. Oops. So Jane Doe No More is a nonprofit here in Connecticut. The organization was founded by Donna Palumba. She was a victim of a home invasion and rape back in 1993. Unfortunately, she faced further re-victimization when the police department didn't believe her and mishandled her case. It took over 11 years, and they had nothing to go on but DNA evidence. Her attacker was finally found. Come to find out, the attacker was actually a good friend of her husband. At that point in time, the statute of limitations on sexual assault had run out on her case. So he was only charged with kidnapping. And I highly recommend learning more about her story. There was actually Dateline episodes about her story, and if you know her story in full, just a kidnapping charge is pretty basic charge for what exactly happened. But her extraordinary strength, perseverance, and leadership brought meaningful change to both police policy and Connecticut state law. In 2007, Donna Palumba's case was the impetus for the removal of Connecticut statute of limitations on sexual crimes with DNA evidence. So here at Jane Doe No More, our programs are survivor-led. We have numerous programs from defense classes to presentations in schools, meeting with law enforcement agencies to ensure victims are treated fairly. Through these survivor-led, whoops, I think I hit the wrong button there for you. Through these survivor-led programs and trauma-informed initiatives, Jane Doe No More is helping everyone understand more about these complex and misunderstood crimes, how to prevent them, and how to minimize a re-victimization. Our core program is our Survivors Speak workshop. I completed this workshop a few years ago. The workshop helped me find my own voice. I never thought that I would be speaking about sexual assault and now here I am, talking about this openly and with every person that I can. I want my story to be heard because I know so many people have remained silent. So we have about 50 plus individuals who have taken the Survivors Speak workshop. We empower survivors to find their voice, advance their healing, and educate others. Survivors are coached to explore, document, and ultimately share their own story. Jane Doe No More is the voice of sexual crime survivors. We lend our names, faces, and stories to help society better understand that anyone can be a victim of a sexual crime. We are strong, vibrant individuals who come from all walks of life. What I would like to do now is share my own personal story with you folks. So I am 41 years old. I have a loving wife. I have 4 children. I have a job that I love. I emphasize these points because I bet you can't tell just by looking at me that I have experienced something that has impacted me for over 25 years. Survivors are among you. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men have been abused before turning 18. You'll hear those facts be repeated many, many times. And I guarantee that you can't tell just by looking at a survivor, knowing that they've been through such a traumatic experience. So I was sexually violated at the age of 12 by a peer. It didn't happen just once. It was ongoing for months, maybe even a year. I hid this for many years from almost everyone I knew, and I still struggle to tell friends and family about my experiences. For a long time, I blamed myself. There was a lot of confusion. Was I gay? Why didn't I stop this? Did I bring this upon myself? Did I just agree to this? Did I, cause this to happen to me? It took me a long time to realize that there is only one person to blame, and he took advantage of me. He manipulated me. He made me think that this is what friends do. And I think all of you know that sexual activity feels good. Our bodies responds whether we want to or not. Sexual activity is very confusing to a 12-year-old boy. So it's important to remember that no 12-year-old should be sexually active. Eventually, he didn't want to be friends. I was so relieved. It was a tremendous weight off my shoulders. I was so happy. I was so thankful that it had finally ended. So fast forward about 25 years, I was watching the show 13 Reasons Why. Pretty popular show. I'm sure some of you have probably seen it. And there was this meet the cast kind of post show, and they were really going through and discussing a lot of the issues that were talked about in the show. And when I was watching that, they talked about again this 1in6.org and that website that you're going to hear a lot about tonight. So I went to this website and I started just reading some of the stories, and I realized that what had happened to me had also happened to other people as well. And that's when I finally realized that I was not alone in this. So that's where I started to go look for a therapist that was going to deal with, any kind of sexual acts and therapy through that or about that. And ultimately, my therapist is what brought me to Doe No More. Being a part of Doe No More has helped me feel empowered. My confidence has been boosted tremendously, and I no longer worry about what other people think of me. There's an instant bond that we have with our fellow survivors. We're all brothers and sisters, and together, I consider us warriors. It can be hard to tell someone what you've experienced. Sorry, I have a little trouble difficulty here. It can be hard to tell someone what you've experienced, or when you've experienced a sexual assault or abuse. You may fear that you will face judgment, or maybe someone won't believe you. For many male survivors, stereotypes about masculinity can also make it hard to disclose to friends and families, or to people in the community. For me personally, being a part of Doe No More and sharing my story has lifted a heavy weight that I was never really aware that I was carrying. And I take pride in knowing I am helping others break their own silence. And that's why I became a part of Doe No More, ultimately breaking my own silence so I can help others break their silence. So Doe No More believes in building healthy cultures where respect, empathy, and nonviolence are important. Everyone matters, and everyone should be involved in sexual violence prevention. Sexual violence involves and impacts people of all genders, and it will take people of all genders working to prevent it. A healthy culture is a safe culture. So there are lots of ways that men can help end sexual violence. So promoting healthy behaviors and responding to survivors in helpful and healing ways are great places to start. I think really important, people need to equip themselves with the information about sexual assault and about abuse. For a long time, I thought rape was one thing. And it turns out that there is a wide range of things that can happen that can fall under the term rape. So sexual violence is sexual violence is a violation of a boundary. It's an unwanted behavior ranging from gestures and verbal harassment to rape. People who commit sexual violence often test individuals by making them feel uncomfortable and watching to see how they behave. They may intrude their physical space to find out if the individual will defeat or defend their physical boundaries or not. This is known as challenging their boundaries. Respecting even the smallest of boundaries is a step toward preventing sexual violence. I'm going to share another little story that I was fairly young, teenager, maybe early 20s, and I was working at a store, and there was a gentleman there. He was, at the time, maybe 30, 40 years old. And we also had a young girl working there, again, maybe 16, 17, 18, something like that. And there were definitely times, me looking back, at the time I didn't really know this was bad, or I didn't really see too much going on myself, but I just heard about it. But there was a gentleman who worked, the gentleman who worked there would, sort of massage the young girl's back. And, this, looking back on this, like I said, I didn't really see it myself. I only heard about it. But that's he was testing those boundaries, and it certainly was making her feel uncomfortable. And what we need to get to the point is saying, first of all, a person seeing this can say that is, that's not really appropriate in this setting. And we also want the person who is feeling uncomfortable to be able to stand up and say, this is making me uncomfortable. I don't like this. So that's just starting off, like being aware of these uncomfortable situations. So help prevent sexual violence by promoting healthy relationships and modeling healthy boundaries. Use your relationships to be helpful. For example, if someone is pressuring another person to drink alcohol, again, not related to sexual violence or violence, but it's a stepping stone. So when that person doesn't want to take a drink, you can help reinforce that boundary by stepping in and repeating that that person does not want to drink. And this can work for any situation, and there's many ways to approach the situation. You have to use your own judgment. I tend to use humor in life, and so I might make a joke at that person who is, trying to pressure the other person. Hey, leave him or her alone, and I'll try to distract and change the storyline to something else. So whatever way works best for you to kind of steer the conversation away from that. So all right. So we also want to use our relationships to honor victims and survivors. For example, if a friend tells a joke about rape, choosing not to laugh can communicate that jokes about rape are not okay with you. There's also, it depends on how you want to approach the situation. You could go and talk to that person later if that's what makes you feel comfortable. But anything that you can do is going to be beneficial. Sorry, my my phone's buzzing on me. So the other thing we want to do is show respect within your relationships by avoiding that habit of interrupting and listening attentively. So sometimes, there's just people in our lives where you just can't get a word in edgewise. And that's again, that's taking away a boundary that you have, or it's invading your mental space. You can't even get a word out. So again, these are tiny little stepping stones. Um, Respond in a helpful way when someone tells you that they have been sexually violated. It is likely that you know someone that has been sexually assaulted, within your own life. It's very likely that someone has experienced some type of sexual violence, or assault or abuse in their life. Like we said, that 1 in 4, 1 in 6 people. So the first person a victim survivor tells has a profound impact. Okay, so you could be that first person. So we'll talk about ways to handle that situation. So first of all, you want to listen without judging or interrupting. Tell them it wasn't their fault. No one has the right to abuse anyone else. You want to tell them that you believe them. Ask how you can be helpful, and then you can refer them to a local rape crisis agency, counseling services, police, depending on what path they'd like to take. I'll admit that, oops, I have so many screens open that I clicked the wrong one. Another story that I have where I've made a mistake. I had someone, a friend in my life that came to me. It was actually a phone call, and they said that that something happened to them, that there was some type of incident, sexual assault, and I'll admit I made some really bad choices in my words, and I did not intend to. And I said, well, why did you let this guy in your house? And why would you do this? And oh, you guys were drinking. And I realized a couple years later, maybe just even a year later, that was the worst possible thing that I could have done. And I learned from that, and I went to my friend and I apologized profusely, and we worked through it. But I still, my heart is broken to this day because of the mistakes that I've made. So the absolute best thing you can do is be supportive of that individual. Using social media to promote healthy behaviors in relationships and prevent sexual violence. So sharing information that talks about healthy relationships, healthy behaviors, and reflects the realities that victims and survivors face. Keep in mind that you may not get a lot of response when you're posting things that might be not easy to digest. I posted a social media post yesterday about giving this talk. I think I've got 3 or 4 likes, and I got 1 comment. If I post about my children, I'll get 100 likes and about 25 comments. So a lot of people are going to skip by, and it's important not to get hung up on that. You're exposing people, and you may not realize what type of effect that you have. So I encourage you, these these types of organizations like Doe No More and Aspen and 1in6.org, and promoting healthy relationships. And let's keep it positive and spread the word, because you never know who needs help. So and you never know who's going to tell somebody else, and that other person might need help, and you hope it just is a domino effect. So we're going to talk about consent next. So, I'll talk about, consent. I do want to say that it's a tough topic for me to talk about because there are thousands of different ways that we interact within relationships. So it's not easy to be clear, cut, and dry. And so hopefully I'll get that point across. But um, you know, there's so many different types of relationships. There's different individuals, and what's okay now is not okay later. So keep that in mind. There's thousands of different situations that consent falls under. So, we're just sort of covering an umbrella here. So consent is an agreement between participants to engage in sexual activity. Consent should be clearly and freely communicated. Okay. Keep in mind, consent looks differently for individuals, couples, folks who are married, and perhaps the newly acquainted. So it's crucial to ask for consent before engaging in sexual activity. Talking openly about what you both want and setting boundaries is important in a relationship, regardless of whether it's casual or long term. Consent is a process which must be asked every step of the way. If you want to move to the next level of sexual intimacy, you need to ask and receive consent. Individuals being pressured or forced into a sexual situation end up with lasting emotional damage that they will carry for the rest of their lives. We all must be ready to be able to hear and understand no. So you should be able to say it. You should be able to hear it. Even if you initiated the intimacy, if you've become uncomfortable with that intimacy, you always have the right to slow things down and stop altogether. It's okay to tell your partner that you don't want to go any further. Now, here's where I'm going to get a little real, and hopefully, you know, hopefully I get this right. I've talked with individuals about this. I've had people tell me, well, what do I need? A contract from that person? And I'm like, no, you don't need a written contract, but you do need permission. And that, I think that permission looks differently, depending on the relationship. So imagine a couple that's been dating for a few years. The man is kissing his girlfriend. She turns away, and she starts to squirm a bit. That is the man's cue to stop. Something that was totally fine, yesterday will be fine tomorrow. It's not okay right now. You don't know if that person had something bad happen at work. Maybe there's something else going on. A family member is sick, and they're just not talking about it. So they may not want to do what you want to do. So it's that person's cue to ask the question, hey, are you okay? Just because they've been together for years doesn't mean that she or he should continue in this sexual act. So when the man in this situation, boyfriend, girlfriend, dating for a couple of years, if he continues to pressure and continues to pursue this, the sexual act, that's when it becomes a problem. Okay. Again, this is just one scenario here. Okay. So every situation is going to be different. All right. So again, talking about relationships here, continuing with relationships. Oops. All right, having a little trouble with my PowerPoint here. There we go. All right. Whoops. All right. So having mutual respect in a relationship, and this goes along with just what we were saying, keeping your partner in mind when you're making decisions and responding to your partner's needs and wants. Talking about what you want and don't want, and respecting your partner's boundaries doesn't have to be scary or awkward. Asking for consent and consenting means that everyone is being clear about their wants and needs. Okay. I think most of you have been in a healthy relationship. I certainly hope so. So you know what a healthy relationship looks like. You know, it's give and take. It's trusting one another. It's having that mutual respect for each other. If you're in a relationship where that's not there, that's a problem. You know, one person dominating another person. You know, being manipulative, pressuring, whether it be small little tasks. It's a problem. So hopefully we can, you know, find you know, a way out for that person. You know, that's the whole idea here. If they're in a bad relationship. So if you're not 100% confident that your partner agrees with what is going on, what is happening, then you stop. So if you're picking up on signals that the other person is not digging what's going on, it's time to stop and ask a question. Do you want me to stop? Do you want me to keep going? If you take one thing away today, let it be the difference between sex and sexual assault is consent. All right, so we're going to talk about grooming next. So you might be thinking that I'm going to talk about hygiene next. Well, I'm not. Grooming is the process by which an offender draws a victim into a sexual relationship and maintains that relationship in secrecy. To establish a good relationship with a child and a child's family, child groomers might do several things. They might try to gain the child or the parent's trust by befriending them with the goal of easy access to the child. A trusting relationship with the family means the child's parents are less likely to believe potential accusations. Child groomers might look for opportunities to have time alone with a child, which can be done by offering to tutor, coach, take special trips, babysit. The groomers may also invite the child for sleepovers, for opportunistic bed sharing. They might have gifts or money to the child. They might give gifts or money to the child in exchange for sexual acts. Or it could be for no apparent reason. I wanted to mention, you know, about the sleepovers. My experience started with sleepovers. I don't think I mentioned that previously in my story. And this whole grooming process, even though it was a peer, he definitely had some grooming techniques. You know, he would bring Playboy magazines to our house, or to my house, and you know, he would use that as a means to prompt the sexual behavior. So it was a grooming technique that he had at the age of 12. And I know I was not the only one. I know that he did this to other people. He did tell me that. There was people, other children before me, and there was other boys at the same time. So, and I'm pretty sure there was people after. So it's scary to think that, you know, who knows how long this went on for. So commonly, you know, groomers will, here another example, commonly show pornography to children, or talk about sexual topics to the child, hoping to make it easy for the child to accept such acts. So this is exactly what the individual did for me. He was normalizing the behavior. They may also engage in hugging, kissing, or other physical contact, even when the child does not want it. You know, if you've ever seen, I'm sure you've probably seen a child in this situation where they just don't want to give a hug to somebody. And that's the type of thing we need to look for, and look for patterns. Sexual grooming of children can also occur on the internet. I'm sure you've heard of this. So some abusers will pose as children online and make arrangements to meet with these children in person. Sexual grooming of children over the internet is most prevalent amongst 13 to 17-year-olds, and especially the 13 to 14-year-olds. So remind your children never to keep secrets from you, and no matter what anybody tells them, that you're always going to love your child. There's nothing that they have done that will ever change that. So, again, a personal account. Like I mentioned, I have 4 children, and I have certainly made the mistake of keeping secrets. It was never never with ill intent. Sometimes I hold secret missions with my kids. And these secret missions are to go and get flowers for mom. They are to go get a donut at Dunkin' Donuts, so my wife can get some free time. What's nice is, first of all, I'm like, hey, don't tell mom, but we have a secret mission going on, and we're gonna go get mom some flowers. And what do my kids do automatically? They go run and tell their mom, which is awesome. But we also emphasize, we never keep secrets about things that make you feel uncomfortable. So we always, even though we say it's a secret, and I know that you're not really supposed to joke about these things, but we make sure that everybody knows about the secret, so it's not really secret. And we emphasize that we're just simply having fun. So again, that may be a bad idea, it may not be, but it gets my kids out of the house and away from my wife for just a tiny bit of time. So let's get into bystander intervention. Okay. So bystanders play a critical role. They outnumber individuals, the perpetrators and victims, by far. And sexual crimes, it's a community problem rather than an individual problem. It really comes down to all of us. You want to there's a couple steps that you can take when looking at intervening. And we want to go with the 3 Ds. There is direct, be direct with someone, distract someone, or delegate to someone else. So we can be direct and intervene in the moment to prevent a problem from happening. Perhaps you can think of a time where maybe you were a bystander and you could have intervened, maybe you didn't. What would you do differently? Again, I've made mistakes. I know we all have, but the whole idea here is that we are willing to learn, and we are willing to make changes, and we're willing to educate others. Okay. So we can distract someone and interrupt the problem. I talked about a little bit about that earlier with with the drinking, like intervening and saying, hey, cut it out, leave that person alone, let them do what they want. And then we can delegate, get help from someone who is better equipped with the situation. We can call the police. We can talk to the owner of a house that has a party going on, something like that. Okay. I think the main thing here is we want to trust your gut. One of the most powerful tools is your own observation. If something doesn't feel right, and then it's time to step in and say something. All right. Some technical difficulties at the moment. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about rape culture. So rape culture is an environment in which rape is prevalent, and in which sexual violence is normalized and excused in the media and pop culture. So pop culture is all rape culture is all around us. Jokes, TV, music, advertising, words, imagery that make violence against a society and sexual coercion seem so normal that people believe that rape is inevitable. We commonly hear, boys will be boys, or this is just the way things are. Well, no, it doesn't have to be that way. We can stand up for equality, and we can make a difference by saying that this is not acceptable. There's how about in a locker room? I heard Tim in the locker room say that his brother was raped. Come on, how can a man be raped? Well, just I personally know men who have been raped, and you might only think that a gay man can be raped, but that's not true. I personally know a straight man that was raped. It can happen. Um, so we don't want to assume that rape only happens between a man and a woman. It can happen between uh, any gender, any race. It's not a one size fits all. We all need to be careful. We all need to be careful with rape culture, and we need to protect everyone from rape culture. So, popular things in rape culture: blaming the victim and not the rapist, denying denying that rape culture even exists. Companies that create decals of women bound and gagged in order to promote their business. A lot of times you see some, more subtle things. The old silhouette of a woman on the mud flaps of a truck, or you'll see other inappropriate things hanging off of vehicles, stickers hanging off of or on vehicles that aren't really sending an equality message. I'm sure you've all seen these driving on the road. There's some people believe that girls allow themselves to be raped, calling victims liars and not taking them seriously. Rape jokes. I'm sure there's jokes that you've heard, and honestly, maybe you've told them before, but maybe it's time for change. So there's music that you can listen to that will promote rape culture, and movies, and other types of media that promote rape culture. So we have to look out for this. All right. So how can we help to stop rape culture? That's a big thing. We need to believe and stand up for victims. We need to avoid language that objectifies or degrades women. Ask the right questions. What made him think that was acceptable, instead of what was she doing, what was she wearing, things like that. We need to talk to college administrations and have safe places for talking about sexual assault on campus. What's it called? I forgot the name of it, but there's a number of events that colleges will put on that allow people to come and talk about their experiences. Take Back the Night. I knew I was going to remember it. Not laughing at rape jokes. We want to stop victim blaming. We don't want to use the word rape inappropriately. I've had this. I've seen this happen where oh, I bought this thing and it wasn't worth it. What a rape job! And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, what? Like, how does that even compare? That's my take on the use of that word. It should not be used unless it's actually a rape. Encouraging boys and men to express emotions, unravel that hyper masculinity, and not promote these news outlets that focus on victim blaming. You know, what was she wearing and things like that. All right, let's take a look next at what if it happens to you. Okay. Here. So first and foremost, know that it is not your fault, that you did not ask for this to happen to you. Get yourself to a safe place. Tell someone. If that person does not listen to you, tell someone else, and keep telling someone else until someone hears you, understands you, and provides some help for you. You want to consider reporting the incident. It's good to get medical attention. Most importantly, if you ever want to pursue you know, the legality of the issue, it's important to have that medical evidence. If the victim is not sure they want to report the attack, it's still important to collect and reserve that evidence for future if necessary. So we have some resources that you folks are probably already familiar with, but we have Aspen that's putting on this this presentation tonight, and we have Doe No More as well, and then we have a private Facebook page that Jdnm survivors. You can ask to join that group, and you can get on there and you can talk about some things with the other folks that might be experiencing something similar to you. Obviously, Doe No More page, it's a pretty new page that we launched, I'd say within the last 6 months or so, and great resource. And it does connect you with a bunch of other resources, like the 1in6.org and a couple of the other websites, and so there are plenty of resources out there. So I encourage you all to look out for the resources, and look into them, and share them. So with that, I'd like to have it open to a Q&A. If there's any questions.
And feel free, I just want to, for folks who may have
Oh.
joined late, feel free to unmute if you want to ask a question, or you could put it in the chat.
And I'll unshare.
So I am going to go ahead.
I am an open book, so please don't hesitate to ask questions. That's how we learn. I will share whatever I'd like.